Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we are kind of drawing to a close on our DK project now. The reason for that is we've hit something I didn't expect to hit so quickly, honestly, which is my Death Knight is now on the gear treadmill. There's not much else for it to do to sort of prove its worth. It's, we aimed to wait till this week, or I intentionally waited till this week, as the Mythic Plus affixes were Teeming and Necrotic. Those are the ones that many people in the community feel DKs have the most difficulty handling, and I did not. And that's for the reason that I'm going to teach you today. What we're going to talk about is something that you can't really pick up in a guide as you would find a standard, like keeping up fucking pressing this button, pressing that button. It's nothing to do with that. Most of the things I taught you through this tank series, which has gone amazingly successfully for so many of you who've got in contact with me saying, wow, this is actually like way easier when you think about it that way, and have gone into tanking. Fucking so proud of you guys who've jumped in and gone, oh, okay, this kind of works out. And it's made you better DPSs, made you better healers. What you've probably found is that once you hit 850 item level, something strange happened that maybe you didn't notice if you were playing a healer or playing a DPS. And that is that, oh, I massively outgear loads of content now, and all I did was world quests and stuff. Yeah, it's so much more apparent when you're playing a tank just how much the content is simplified in those early difficulty levels, because of course you're the one who might have to face death, and you probably walked into your first Mythic 0, Mythic 1, 2 or 3 expecting to get crushed into the ground, and what happened? That didn't happen. In fact, it felt just fine and dandy, and you're like, what's going on? It's like, oh, and then those dungeons start dropping 850 gear, and you're like, I'm not even getting upgrades from this? What's going on? Blizzard has actually done a really good job of way over gearing people for early access content, so that there should be no excuse for not trying it. Not that the community at large, which hopefully you are differentiating yourself from, still believes I need a minimum item level to do stuff, I still need this and that, I can't do it yet. A lot of our tanking series has revolved around crushing excuses, and tanking is a wonderful way of doing that, because you're very quickly realizing, okay, I can definitely do more than this. If I'm not even like struggling here, I could definitely do more. You're applying the idea of controlling the group. All your runs, for the most part, the biggest like props I've had from doing this series is the amount of guys who've gone, my runs are really successful, like way more successful than I thought they would be. It's like, yeah, if you learn that you are in control of the dungeon and control the pace and stuff, then you're going to have a great success time. You're going to have a really, really good success time. And the Mythic 9 we did in the background, we actually two-chested it without issue. We took some alts there. And of course, at Mythic 9, your raiders and stuff want to come. This is the point where I'd start playing with friends. And what I found while doing the Pug world, because we did nearly everything on the Blood DK in the Pug world, is people contacting me saying, can you tank for us again? Can I add you to Battle.net? And once you see that, you're like, okay, I'm getting the idea. So what are we looking at today? So two things I want to look at is High Mythic Plus. So I looked at Teeming and Necrotic, and these two things that I really want to teach you today are things that overlap somewhat. The biggest thing that you need to learn as the tank, and it's such a fucking pitfall, guys. It's so bad, and I see so many potentially great tanks fall into this trap, and it's also, in my mind, the #1 reason for a lot of complaints that I see about certain systems in the game. And it's the idea of leaving your ego at the door. Once you realize that you're pretty much unstoppable in terms of, if you're doing a random heroic now and you're like 850 geared, you've probably realized you can pull half the dungeon and not die in nearly all occasions. You can absolutely dwarf crush it and speed tanking it. And our last video is going to be on speed tanking, by the way, because it's something you'll really want to pick up on and learn. You've noticed that happens, is you can just pull loads. People might die around you, but you kind of can fall into this trap where you don't care, because you're not going to die, and your DPS is pretty high now, and you can actually you can solo the dungeons pretty fucking easily. Like, really easily, just wearing World Quest gear, once you reach that level. What tends to happen with that, with a lot of players, is they develop this sort of God mode attitude. This real I am the fucking hero attitude, okay? It's not an attitude that a lot of people get when they're DPSing and healing, but tanks suffer from this immensely. I am the fucking hero. It doesn't matter if you die, I got this. And plus, you are prone to having these hero moments where everybody dies except you, and then you go on to solo it, right? This happens quite a lot, especially if you're doing pretty easy fucking content, right? It can happen. It's probably happened to some of you already. And therefore, you can kind of develop this attitude. Now, the problem is, once you hit harder difficulty content, that is probably the first thing that's going to get you killed. So let me expand on that a little bit. A big part of tanking as you move through the series. So those of you who are new to tanking and looking to get into tank raiding, I'm more specifically talking to you guys. For those of you who are tanking for fun, enjoy it, because you should, from what I can gather from the feedback you've given me, you're doing that, is communication. Communication in specifically asking for help. There's a big problem with these ego tanks that exists where they don't ask for help. What they do is look for ways to one-man army it, to be the phalanx all on their own, and when they can't, they blame their class. It happens all the time. I did Teaming and Necrotic on this DK, and it was the first time I did it. I did 3 dungeons with Teaming and Necrotic, and 100% success rate, 2 or 3 chested all of them. Did I wait? Yes. Did I ask for stuns and stuff from the group? Yes. Did I ask for help? Yes, I did. Did I say, I'm kiting now, can you slow them? Yeah. Why? Because once you get to the higher difficulties, you realize that this role that I taught you in videos 1 and 2, which is to control the group, to look for the signs and signals of things, how to dictate the pace, all those things are no longer special. Those aren't the things that separate you from the rest. Those are now, that's just your role. That's the same role as a DPS who takes very, very little damage and puts out extraordinary damage. Those are the healers who can take care of nearly all scenarios when things start going really crazy, while still managing to do the extras, like give people speed boosts and all this kind of stuff, still managing everything else. That's now just your role. It's not special anymore to be able to do that. At the higher levels, people just expect that of you. That's like the minimum you should be doing, which is great because you're now good at that. But now you're at a point where the weaknesses that each class has, and every class has them. Some have more than others, no doubt about it, but every class has them, and you can counter them either by bitching on a forum that every single tank spec should have the same things. We should all have an AoE stun, we should all have some really fast mobility, we should all do this, this, and that. Or you can understand that in order for us to have really interesting classes in World of Warcraft that aren't all generic, is that you start looking at this game as a multiplayer game. And that you have access to all of these resources, they're just not on your spell bars. And you have to start communicating. When I joined my first proper serious raiding guild, so my first top 60 raiding guild in the world, my first test was to lead the raid. Now, I don't want you to panic. But I do believe that everybody who plays a tank should be capable of leading a raid. In terms of, I'm pulling, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. This is important. You need to have the communication skills to not only be able to say, I need an iron bark, I need a pain suppression. You know when you're going to die. Yeah, you know when you need to kite. You know when your stacks have got too high. You know when this is a problem. And being able to read that situation, but not just look at your spell bars and go, I haven't got anything left, and then sort of go into panic mode. And then start, oh, well, we need this. If I was a paladin, I'd have this. If I was a warrior, I'd have a shockwave, right? I would have been fine. I should get shockwave. No, what you do is you go, demon hunters, can you stun? Warlocks, can you stun? And you start translating through it, and you start asking it, and you start coordinating it. You start taking charge again. Same thing we did in video 1. You're taking charge of the situation, and you're managing it appropriately, and then you start to realize that not only were you dwarfing heroics, now you're dwarfing what's considered by the community to be extremely difficult hardcore content, and it's all because you opened your fucking mouth. You realize that, okay, what's my weaknesses on this class? How do I deal with that? What do I want in the group to make this successful? Awesome. Now I'm going to get access to that. Make a macro, whatever, if you're going to pug that kind of stuff. Real easy. Real easy stuff. This translates into raids as well. There's nothing worse than when tanks die and the healers are going, well, I had pain suppression, I had iron bark, I had all these things, I had life cocoon. Why didn't you ask for it? I don't know when you don't have cooldowns. You need to open your goddamn mouth. And this is where I see really good tanks fall down, because they're looking for ways to manage everything by themselves. When it's not a by yourself situation, when the content gets more difficult, it's an everybody situation. So moving on to more specific stuff about Mythic Plus. When it came to the affixes in Mythic Plus, by now, every single one of you should be pretty much fully aware of everything that happens in the dungeons that are in Legion currently, right? No surprises to be had. And now comes the affixes to shake things up a bit. Not all of them affect tanking. Yeah, some of them are for the ranged DPS, some of them for the healers to deal with. But you still need to be aware of them, especially when it comes to the tanking ones. Now, with Necrotic specifically, which is very, very tank focused, it doesn't matter how good your healer is if you can't be fucking healed, right? Doesn't matter if you take an 890 geared healer if you can't be fucking healed and you don't manage that. There ain't nothing he can do about that. That's on you, bro. You've got to deal with it. What you'll notice when I'm playing is I'm just taking little breaks. I think you can get really stuck, and I see it all the time with the go, 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 go mentality that you might be used to in the pug world and you might be used to in other scenarios, and then realizing that sometimes the best decision is to fucking stop. Or try, if you're better, try and time the death of a pack with a small kite window so you can reset those stacks and go straight into the next one. Thereby the DPS never stops. That's if you get it really good. That's if you get it right. Now, all this stuff is stuff that you should be asking for help with to make sure you get it right. I would be truly disappointed if anybody walked away from our series thinking, okay, well, I rolled this class, but I'm not happy with X and Y because Paladins and Warriors have X and Y. That's no good. I'm going to start moaning and hopefully Blizz will fix, please. No, that's not really the way the game's going to work. You should be able to deal with things as a group. What I do want to move on to is the second part of this, which is now converting, for those of you who are going to raid, the techniques that you had in the first video, which was dictating the pace of the run, and then applying that to raids. If you start raiding, or if you have a raid guild right now, farm raiding can be one of the most tedious things ever. And you've probably noticed that on farm raids, sometimes you wipe on bosses that you shouldn't do that, right? You shouldn't be wiping here. You overgear it to the fucking teeth. You've killed it lots of times, relatively speaking, and you should not be dying here. But you die. A big culprit of that is boredom, right? Boredom. Because farm raids in general, once you've done 3 or 4, I mean, especially now you're looking at something like, say, Emerald Nightmare, depending on what difficulty you're doing on it, you're likely to be, you know, decently in there at some point, but you're going to be farming things like Nethendra, right? And then you've got to do that massive trash wave afterwards. Then you've got to go maybe do Ursoc. Oh my god. And it already sounds boring, right? Use what you learned in video 1. Dictate the pace of the run. Dictating the pace of the run keeps people interested. There is nothing worse than when raids not only are not that interesting because you're farming something relatively easy, but there's pauses and gaps. One of the great things that I love doing when I was raid tanking, yeah, which is towards the end of Hellfire Citadel Mythic was the last time, is looking at logs. How long did this raid take us? When did we have gaps in progression? When did we stop? When did the raid actually come to a stop? When did we stop doing DPS? When did we stop having any action? Let's eliminate that. So next week, we're going to cut 20 minutes off this raid. We reached Xavius in 2 hours, right? Or 3 hours in some cases. We're going to get that down to 2.5 hours. And I'm going to save time here, here, and here, because guess what? Nothing happens unless I pull. Nothing happens. So if you've got those guys, and again, this brings us back to the first thing I was talking about, which is communication. If you've got those guys that when a boss dies, they fucking go over it, and they stare at a flashing corpse, and they're like, oh, what's the loot? I'm going to wait here until loot side, which never needs to happen. And most raids are using some sort of main looter distributor of some manner. You as the tank should be going, we're pulling. Get over here, we're pulling. And shouting at people. Hey, dipshit, why are you waiting there? Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Especially on farm bosses, your healers are likely to still have mana and all that kind of stuff. And what you should be doing, I believe, is an always very important part of the tanking role is assessing how the raid did, looking for ways to speed that up. Yeah? Looking for ways to make that raid faster. And guess what happens? People don't drift out. They don't start checking Reddit. They don't start checking Netflix if the boss dies and you're instantly on the case like, right, healers drink if they've got low mana. Because I told you in video 1, how to check if the healer mana's okay. If you judge healer's mana's fine, we're pulling. It takes one person to sort the loot out. And then you start applying all these things to raids. What you're going to notice is that when you're in the raid, and this is what this is all about, when you're in the raid, that raid goes smoother. Bosses get one shot more because people aren't drifting out. They're not looking for other things to do. They're not talking to their friend. They're not doing this and that. They're not Skyping somebody. They're not watching a YouTube video. What they're doing is in constant motion. Constant motion and action from start to finish. And these are all the things that you picked up literally in random heroic groups. All this knowledge is what you picked up there and now applying it to a bigger setting and looking for ways to constantly improve. Okay? So these are the end things I want you guys to deal with. These aren't things that you can pick up with talents. They're not things that you can pick up with glyphs, and artifact power is never going to help it. Your ability to communicate and dictate and control a run, while simultaneously leaving your ego at the door and understanding that your role is a very specific role, but it's no better, no worse than everybody else's. Everyone's doing their role. But what you can do is make things better for everyone and improve other people's roles. Ladies and gentlemen, tanking, World of Warcraft, those are all the major things that I've learned about tanking over like 10 years. So I hope that helps you out. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We're starting our healer series now. Should be fun. Bye-bye.